In this video, we're going to talk about aggregation and also subqueries. Okay, so first off, the problem is find the invoice numbers and invoice amounts of invoices where the invoice amount is greater than the average invoice amount. Okay, so what we're going to do is write a SQL query that will go through and pick out all the invoices where the invoice average or where the invoice amount is larger than the average of these numbers here of the invoice amounts. Okay. All right. So first off, what we need to know is what is the average amount inside there. So what we would do is use select and then use one of the aggregation functions in here. So it's for average, it's AVG, but there's also sum and count. All right. So if you want to add up all the numbers, you can do that. Here we want to take the average amount, right? So, and what do I want to take the average of? I want to take the average of the inventory amount. And then this would be from the invoice table. So that's all we would do. And when we run this, we're going to wind up with a single number, and that number will just be the average of these numbers here. Okay, so I'm going to have to erase this. But then after we figure out that average, we want the invoice numbers and amounts, so numbers and amounts of invoices that have greater than invoice amount greater than the average. All right, so I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to run this. And when I do that, I just wind up with one number, right? The average of these numbers right here. And so I get 270.46 as the average of these numbers right here. All right, so that's how to write a query that would give you the average. So that's one of the aggregate functions in SQL and how to use that, the basic usage of it. All right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to write the query to get the inventory numbers and the inventory amounts. And I'm going to save this one because I'm going to use it as a subquery in this query. And what a subquery is, it's a query inside of another query. All right, so let's write the query that we want. So we want to select, we want inventory numbers and inventory amounts. And we're going to get that from the invoice table. Okay, but we want the inventory amount to be greater, and the average is what we want here. So what you don't want to do, right, is write 270 like that or whatever it was. You don't want to do that, right? Because then when you get more data, that's going to cause the average to change, and then you would have to like go through and update that by hand. You don't want to do that. Okay, so what you want to do is include this query as a subquery, and you can do that. So just put this query in parentheses here, and I'm going to back it up here. So we already saw what the result of that query was. It was 270. And so now we've got it included as a subquery in our bigger query right here. And so now when this invoice database gets updated, then what will happen is that before this other query code is executed, it will go in and do this query right in here and return the average. So definitely don't want to do it the other way. All right, so let's run that. Oops, go up here. All right, and we got 8001, 8002, and 8004, right? So those were all the ones where the amount was bigger than 270 or whatever exactly the average was, 528, and sure enough, that's it. Okay, so a subquery, right, is a query used inside of another query like this. So that's incredibly convenient, right? It saves us from having to manually go and update this every time we want to run something like that.